So I did a lot of research, and TikTok told me if you could only do one hike while visiting Mount Rainier National Park, this was the hike to complete. This is the Fremont Fire Lookout Trail. The reason people said that this is the hike that stands out to them is once you complete it and reach the fire lookout, you really put face to face with Mount Rainier. It's not only a great hike for new or inexperienced hikers, but even in the dead of summer, it is almost perfect temperature to complete this type of hike. What also stood out to me was that it's a very approachable trail. Even though there is quite a bit of elevation gain, my family comes from Houston, Texas. We're at sea level, and even though we were hiking to about 7,000 feet, it really didn't impact us that much. And depending on the season you go, you might be dazzled by wildflowers, see all sorts of wildlife like marmots, mountain goats, and these little chipmunk ground squirrel things. I guess I should probably do the research and find out the name of those before I make a whole video about this trail, but here we are. So let's go ahead and get started on this hike. If you were like us and you're staying the night in Seattle, then you're gonna wanna get up pretty nice and early because it's gonna be about a 2.5 hour drive from Seattle to this side of the park. I would say we ended up at the park by about 9:30, and we really didn't have to wait too long in line to get in, but earlier is always better. You definitely don't want to be sitting in the park line for an hour just waiting to be able to enter the park. Also be warned, this is probably one of the more stressful drives that I have been on because you are swirling around the mountain, you are driving next to cliff faces, and we all were having not the best time on the way up there. Again, we're from Texas, y'all. It is flat. But we will be starting this hike at the Sunrise Visitor Center. This is a great place to get in, use the bathroom, get your gear together, grab a map, or check out and learn a little bit about the park. You can do this trail as a there and back at 5.7 miles, but we actually, sort of at the last minute, were recommended by a ranger to do a little bit more of a loop style, and I think that put us a little over 6 miles, maybe 6.5. But the hike back was very easy, and you get to see a whole new part of the park, so I would recommend taking that other loop on the way back. So after you start your elevation gain and you make it through a cliffy and grassy area, you're gonna end up in this space with lots of volcanic rockfall. All of the loose rock can definitely make it a little tricky while you're hiking through, and you'll wanna make sure that you keep an eye out for ground squirrels because they are hiding all over these little rocks. And even though they are very cute and they're going to beg, you should not give them a snack. Even though they're gonna ask very, very nicely, don't do it, and the ranger said they're known to bite. After about halfway through, you'll make it to Frozen Lake, which I think would be more appropriately named Frozen Pond. It's definitely a little sad to see because you can already see where the water is receding back from. I am sure in all of its glory that it was indeed a lake, but at this point, a lot of that water has evaporated and it's a little bit more of a pond, but it is still very blue and pretty to look at. He's a little camouflaged, but you can see that there are a few marmots on the trail. They're almost like beavers, but without beaver tails. At least that's kind of what they look like in my head. But around this area in Frozen Lake is going to be a great spot to stop for lunch. You're about halfway through, like I said, and you can also mentally prepare yourself for the extra elevation gain and cliff sides that you're going to be walking next to after you pass it. But it's only about 1.3 miles to the lookout, so you're almost there. Now, I did have my parents and my younger sister hiking with me, and it was at about this point that my parents decided to turn back, not because it was too physically demanding, but because my dad is extremely afraid of heights, and he had a moment where there was a little bit of a rock slide right in front of him, and he was done. He was ready to turn back after that. So just truly be aware. I was pretty stressed out the entire time. It's a lot easier when you turn back and head back down, but on the way up there, it is definitely intimidating. And again, with the loose rock, you really just can't help but think that you're going to slip and fall to your death. But after all of that drama, you will be at one of the best views you will ever see in your life. On one hand, you are just looking at thousands of beautiful trees across the mountainside, sort of within this valley. And then on the left, like I said, you truly are so close to the glacier. It almost feels like you could reach out and touch it, and you can feel the cold wind coming off of it. It's really quite a physical experience. The three of us shared a little success beer and hung out for a little bit just to enjoy the views. And then, like I said, on the way back, basically once you are hiking down and you make it back to Frozen Lake, you have the decision to either take the same trail that you took in back, or you can do what we did and take the Wonderland Trail the rest of the way. This direction is going to put you past Sunrise Camp and just give you a whole other side of the mountain to look at. I would highly recommend doing it this way because the scenery just changes so much. I feel like there was a lot more wildflowers on that side, and that Wonderland Trail is supposed to be very well known for seeing mountain goats. Even though we didn't see one, I hope that you're lucky enough to. And the other good thing about the Wonderland Trail is it's all downhill and flat, versus if you took the original route there, you would have to do a little bit more of uphill trekking before you would flatten out and you get to return to the visitor center. Honestly, we could not ask for a better hiking experience, and I truly do think that this was worth all of the hype that I saw around it on TikTok. Again, I do think that this is a very approachable trail, although it is a proper hike, so make sure to be prepared, wear good footwear, pack water, and plenty of snacks. If you are very afraid of heights and think that you will end up with jello legs at the end, maybe this isn't the trail for you. But if you do visit Seattle, I do think that it's worth the day trip to go out to Mount Rainier National Park. And if you decide to take the trip, don't forget to leave it better than you found it.